Okie dokie. So it's nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
I'm Kylie.
Kylie.
And can I have you introduce yourself?
My name's Rodney Whittenberg.
Okay. And so how did you get started in climate action?
Oh, wow. It's if you're relating to the film, my co-producer and I have made 3 films together, and this being the 3rd one. And it always seems like he contacts me with an idea just right after I've had a sort of a life-informing experience that leads me to go, oh, that's really interesting. I should do something with that. And then he calls and goes, hey, you want to make a film about climate restoration? About 2 weeks before, Vic Comfer, who is the brains, the visionary behind the film, The Eagle and the Condor Unite. I was out on a shoot interviewing an indigenous Lenapean chief. Okay. And there was this land that was it was a Superfund site. It was poison, and he was there, and I had a camera on, and he was explaining to me how he could take out all the poison metals with a certain kind of cabbage and plants. Wow! But the government, he was petitioning and fighting with the local government to let him do this because they wanted to come in and use, however they clean up a contaminated site with chemicals and scraping the land. He says, I can do this in a year or 2, doing it naturally. And I'm like, really? He goes, yeah, it's the ancient wisdom. We know what plants to put here, and we can pull it out of the ground. And I was like, wow. And then I left meeting him going, I should make a film about that. And then Vic calls me a little bit later and goes, hey, Rod, you want to make a film about climate restoration? I have this book by Peter Fiekowsky and Carole Douglas that you should read. Now, before that, I've been involved in a lot of different aspects of causes and things, but this is I think the biggest thing in this particular area that I've done is to create this film.
Wow. So through creating the film, what do you think your biggest takeaway was?
Wow.
A big takeaway.
The thing that I am the most excited by, and I'm going to talk about this tomorrow right before before or after we show a little excerpt of the film. I've always wanted to be, this is so geeky, but since I was a kid, I loved and wanted to be part of a movement. And so, as a kid, I would look back to the turn of the last century, and most of the movements are art movements or music. But you look at the turn of the last century with Picasso and Gertrude Stein and just the movement that was happening in Paris at that time. I mean, there's a whole year, a period of just immense creativity, and they all kind of knew each other. And then you come to the Harlem Renaissance or the Algonquin Round Table, you could just go through these periods where there's groupings of people who were getting together, they created the scene, and something came out of it. Again, Paris in the 20s and 30s. So in finding out about this movement, I'm like, 100 years, people will be talking about the people who were part of this movement, and they'll probably have a name for it. Like we look back on history. And I know there are times when this has happened before in science. I actually have to do some research before tomorrow to figure out what they are. I'm thinking Copernicus was one because he was part of a group. But, so that's the takeaway, that not only is there hope, but there are serious people using all their knowledge and imagination to come up with ways of saving the planet, and particularly Peter's idea of climate restoration through the Pinatubo effect of drawing CO2 out of the air. It's imaginative, it's creative, and it needs support. And that's my takeaway, that we're in as bleak as it may seem, we are in an amazing time.
Well, that's absolutely so special. Yeah, to be a part of a big movement and community. So it's called The Eagle and the Condor?
The Eagle and the Condor Unite, a story of climate restoration.
The Eagle and the Condor Unite, a story of climate restoration.
Yeah, Vic and I, one of the things is I usually lose out on the title. when we are working together. He gets to choose the title of the film.
And
so.
it's out now, or it's coming out soon?
Well, one of the things that's interesting, we're in the final stages. In
Yeah.
fact, this is so crazy that I'm here. I just got filmmaking is a very, very time-consuming, tedious, mind-numbingly long process, even if you're making something short. So I just got the color correction back, which means all the images are nice and cleaned up and look really crisp and sharp. I got them back Saturday morning, and I was trying to render them all before I got out here, and I couldn't, so I brought my laptop. So it's right now crunching up. It's doing its render right now. I'll keep my fingers crossed that I get everything ready for tomorrow. But we're going to put it out for free. We're going to share it with the world sometime in the late summer, I think, or early summer, late summer. And there's a lot of organizations who have come on board who say they want to help in the distribution of this, getting it in the schools and churches and community centers and all over. So that is our goal. Vic wanted to make this a gift to the world, I guess. That'd be so grandiose, and that just so that people know that there is hope and there is the possibility of reversing the CO2 in the atmosphere, along with all the other things that people are doing that are just pretty. I mean, that's what takeaway. Pulling CO2 out and being able to store it in concrete blew my mind. I was like, whoa, that's really cool. Like, who would have thought of that? And just so many of the other things that people are doing that we touch on in the film is great.
Yeah. Yeah, like in the ocean, for example.
Yeah.
Yeah,
ocean iron fertilization. I think there's a new name I'm supposed to say for that, but yeah. It's really just amazing. And other thing I wanted to say about the film is we approach this story, like we do with many of our stories, from a lot of different angles. One of the things that when Vic and I talk about making a film together, I'm always on the position that I want to invite everyone to the party.
Yeah.
I don't want it to just be something for the already converted. So we walked a very fine line here, and it's really funny some of the feedback we've gotten. We are looking at the problem, and then we look at solutions from our spiritual or ancient wisdom responsibility. We look at it through some of the Abrahamic religions and some of the indigenous religions or spiritual practices, which sometimes that turns people off. We look at what the earth can do for us and how science is beginning to prove that, forest bathing and earth grounding actually have scientific merit. So we're looking at the earth from that aspect. We're looking at it obviously through the science, but also through entrepreneurialism and capitalism. How can we invest in our future? We want everyone to come to the table. And
it seems like you're combining a lot of aspects.
Yeah, and so it's really interesting, though, when people watch the film, one of the comments we'll get is, well, I wish I had more science. I could do without the frou-frou stuff. And somebody else will come up and say, yeah, that frou-frou stuff, that spiritual stuff really touched me deeply. I could do without the science. Give me more of that. And then someone else will go, you feature capitalism. You all know capitalism is bad. Why would you do that? And I'm like, we need everybody to solve this problem.
Yeah.
So we're speaking to everyone.
I love that. Like, yes, can't make everybody completely happy, but hopefully invite everyone into the conversation.
And see where their touch point is, see where their passion is, and hopefully that brings them to the table to want to be part of this revolution.
That's beautiful. And you're an artist, you make music, right? Is that an aspect you also find in that makes change?
Well, I did the score for this film and the title song.
Wow, I didn't know that.
And the closing song is by someone that I've been working with, Faye Adinda. She's a very spiritually oriented songwriter, and I've been helping her finish her record up. And there's one song she had, Lotus Flower. I was like, this is a perfect song for the closing credits. Can we have it? And she's like, oh, yeah, sure. Yeah. So yeah, music too is just so powerful. I mean, I love, people ask me what do. I say I'm a storyteller who works in a lot of different mediums. You want me to write I can write a song about it. I could make a poem. We could make a movie. We could do a podcast. We could do whatever. We can come up with whatever seems the best way to get that message out. So yeah, music has that amazing ability to communicate before it's understood, which I love.
And each of those like movements and like revolutionary type things you referenced definitely has art and music at the center of it.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. Well,
here we are.
Yeah. And one of the things that has always been curious to me, and, you know, in other parts of the world, music is dangerous. Mm-hmm. And maybe we're on the cusp of it happening that way again here, where when people, you know, it is an amazing thing that people who just make music can be put in jail in other parts for just singing a song. Right. And not that I want that to happen here, but I would love to see music have that kind of power here. Yeah,
like the extent to which you are able to express yourself. You know? That's powerful.
Yeah, because it's just so you're a musician as well?
Yes. I do a lot of theater choir at school.
Awesome.
Yes. Yeah. And I find it to be powerful, and I find that it overlaps with a lot of these activism values.
Yes. Yeah. Well, it's been doing some activism back in Philadelphia. I occasionally play with this choir that was specifically started to be a political action choir. They're called Voices Rising Choir, and we played one of the big rallies at the early part of the year. It was amazing being on stage in front of 20,000 people in Philadelphia, just being there with this choir, being their guitarist. It was pretty powerful.
That's so powerful. Yeah. Last words of wisdom to the people out there?
Just ask questions, dig deeper, and have conversations with people that are different than you and that aren't like you, and find out where the common ground is. I mean, at the end of the day, the one thing, no matter what you believe, who you are, you can't avoid not having clean air, clean water, clean place to live. Without those things, it impacts us all. You can't buy your way out of it. You can't gate your way out of it. You can't all of a sudden go, I'm in a gated community and I make a lot of money, so I don't have to worry about climate change or climate restoration. I have a really good friend two good friends that I almost lost because we had a tornado, which we never had before in Pennsylvania. They both, one lost their house and one was probably about 10 inches, about 50 yards from losing their business, where the tornado came through. But the one person, I mean, just the level of their house, and that's immediate. You can't move somewhere and go, okay, I'm okay.
Right. The climate crisis impacts everybody.
It impacts us all.
Right.
And there's, I like what one of the politicians said today on the big stage earlier, that, it doesn't matter if he said he was having a conversation with someone who was right-leaning, and they didn't believe that humans had any impact on the climate. But he did want clean water and he did want clean air.
Right.
And so, okay, so you don't believe it, but you still see that there's a problem. You may not, I don't know how you could not believe, given that we've been burning fossil fuel for only the last 200 years, and that's where the problems have started. It's hard to believe that we don't have an impact on it, but I get, everybody's entitled to their opinion, belief. That's what makes us free. But, in the end, we're not going to survive if the planet doesn't. The planet will be here. I love what George Carlin said. The planet will be here. We won't.
Right.
Because if we don't have the things that sustain life, we'll be gone.
Yep. No matter how you believe we got here, we're experiencing the effects.
Yeah.
Right. Absolutely.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. So that is the takeaway.
Yes.
And I would say with climate restoration, I think the big thing that I think is to get the word out.
Get the word out.
Get the word out. Have conversations with people. Talk to people about that there is a possibility of restoring.
That hope. Absolutely.
And that support. And is it a Herculean lift? Is it like going to the moon? Yeah. But we did that.
We went to the moon.
Yeah. We just went back. and we're going back again.
Absolutely.
So we can do that. If we collectively get together and get behind it, we could restore the planet back to its, its original state before this industrial revolution.
Right. Pre-industrial levels before 2050.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, great. I think that's it.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.